Namaste and welcome from Dhananjaya Kumar. This video is about raising intelligent kids and some hints and pointers for wisdom teachers. And at least 15 or 20 videos we have already made for this purpose as a starting point for teachers. And that starting point opens up into many other topics and themes and questions that teachers can convey to children and teach them how to learn, which is more important than what to learn. So I'll start with an example about being a keen observer with an inquisitive mind. In that way, children or anyone can learn so much more than what you can see through your eyes. Simply by focusing on an object, it can be anything, inside or outside your house. But watching it carefully and asking, and you will be surprised how much knowledge you can extract from that object. And perhaps in the end, you have a few questions remaining to be answered that you can pursue and try to find answers. So I'll pick up a piece of paper, very ordinary piece of paper, torn on one side. It was just sitting in front of me. Now if I look at closely, I say, okay, well, on one side it is not white plain paper, it's some kind of marking. Was it done intentionally, or the paper was made like this? On this side I see something written. Now what is written on this? This happens to be a Sanskrit mantra for the goddess of learning, Saraswati, also called Sharada. So this mantra says, and I can read in Hindi alphabet, Namaste Sharade Devi Veena Pustak Dharineem Vidyarambham Karishyami Prasanna Bhava Sarvada. It's a prayer to Sharada or Saraswati, who is holding a veena, a musical instrument, and a book in the other hand, which to me indicates that learning and music go together, hand in hand, literally hand in hand. And then says, Vidyarambham Karishyami. I am now beginning my education process. I am beginning to learn. Prasanna Bhava Sarvada. And requesting, praying Saraswati to be always happy and blessing upon me, who is searching knowledge and wisdom, and on everyone else who has thirst for knowledge and wisdom. So in this piece of paper, this is now the question is, where did this paper come from? Well, this paper came from a larger sheet and it was torn into a smaller piece. But regardless of larger or smaller piece, where does paper come from? Well, then as a child I have to ask myself, where does this paper come from? Okay, you can see that your parents bought it from the shop. Okay, where did the shop get it from? Well, it probably got it from a factory where paper is made. How the paper is so thin and flat? There must be something pressing it to make it flat, because whatever the paper is made of probably comes in lumps or liquid. Paper cannot be made of something very solid. It has to be first be liquid so it can spread and press so it becomes flat, and then cut to that size of paper that they want. But where that material comes from to the factory, and how the machines are made. The machines, the engineers must have made it, and the factory must be an enclosed space with place to put all the machines and put the material, and then the paper. You have to stack the paper, you have to pack the paper, and then send it to the shop where it was purchased from. But where does the material come from now? So children may have heard that the paper is made out of trees. Okay, so trees, how does tree become paper? This is the long process. It goes, first the tree is cut and shaved off, leaves, and then it is grounded into some kind of dust. And okay, then you can go further. A tree, where does this tree come from? Well, the tree grows in the forest, in the land area available for growing trees, and it can be small tree, large tree, thick tree, thin tree. But how are trees? How do trees exist? Well, they come from seeds, and the trees, how do they grow? Well, they basically standing on land, so there must be something land, inside the land, that the trees are taking from the land and putting it up and growing taller. So other than the stuff from the land, what else makes the tree grow? So children can guess rightly that, okay, to grow a tree, you also need water. Because without water, the trees will die. Where does water come from? Well, water comes from rain. And where does rain come from? Rain comes from the cloud. And where does water and rain get in the cloud? Well, a cloud comes from somewhere else. It moves. So where is it coming from? Then you can tell them about the water cycle. Well, from the ocean and large lakes, when the temperature rises, water dries up and becomes kind of steam and rises, and the pressure from up is not letting it rise forever up and up, but it stays somewhere in the atmosphere, and it gets darker because there is a water vapor in the clouds, and that is blocking the sunlight, so even during daytime it becomes cloudy. And when the cloud is blown with the wind, it moves and takes different shapes, and maybe it hits a higher ground or a mountain, and it crashes, and it trembles and it shakes, and that shaking makes the moisture turn into droplets, and it falls on the ground. Oh, that's a nice story. But how are you connected with this piece of paper? You told me everything about, almost everything about where the paper come from and how it is made, and trees also need sunlight to grow. But how are you connected with this paper? Okay, well, I use this paper to write my notes and stories and essays, and when I read a book, I make notes, main points I learned, So I'm connected with the paper in that way. And therefore, because the paper is connected to trees, therefore I am also connected to trees. Because no sunlight, no land, there is no trees. So I'm connected with actually land also, and sun, and the wind, of course, and fertilizers. Sometimes you throw in fertilizer to grow plants and trees. So I'm connected to that water, the sunlight, the trees and land and factories and people who made it and machines and who brought it here. I'm connected and kind of dependent with so many other people and forces of nature. It is amazing that from a small piece of paper, without anybody telling me, I can inquire and go back and deeper as far as I can go. So this is just an example how a keen and observant mind with inquisitive nature, that anything I see, I want to know what it is, where it came from. And above all, how am I connected with trees? Well, I'm connected with trees. It's a matter of life and death. If no trees, no life, no oxygen. And if no human, there is no trees. Maybe without human, trees will exist, but for humans to exist, the carbon dioxide they breathe out has to go somewhere, and that's what the trees absorb. They eat what we throw out. So its cycle goes on. So I depend on trees for my life, and trees depend on me. So let's not harm ourselves or other humans, and humans, please don't harm trees, because my life, my books, my knowledge, to some extent depends on them. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll meet again soon.